Welcome everyone to the Power Up. So I was decided to do a video on this topic that we did a short, and there's just a lot of confusions when it comes to this, but we're going to do a full in-depth breakdown, and it's going to be a choice out of Cell or Majin Buu on who has the better absorption. Now, few people in the comments, they understand, they get it, and like I said, it's all really just up to preference, as we want to see what you guys decide or what you want as a ability in the comments, and to see who has the better ability. And we're gonna just get some key details because there is some confusion with some people when they look at this. So we want to get the people who didn't thoroughly look at the series, or go encourage them to rewatch the series and see more information on this when it comes to Cell and Majin Buu and their absorption abilities. So we first get the introduction of Cell. Cell shows up in Dragon Ball Z around the same time we just got the androids, Android 17 and 18, after the Z Fighters suffered a defeat at the hands of 18 and 17. And at this point, we get the fusion of Kami and Piccolo. And at this point, Kami's already sensing some type of threat, and they find out, something is going on, and Piccolo's the first to encounter Cell. At this point, the news is going on, and they're saying that over 15,000 people has vanished. So this is the first sign of something weird, and we see Cell show up as he fights Piccolo. Piccolo is still stronger than him, but he managed to get his hands on Piccolo, and he's able to start absorbing Piccolo as he punctures Piccolo's arm. At this point, Piccolo stalls to get information out of Cell while he gets energy to regenerate his arm back. At this point, Cell makes an escape as people start to show up with a solar flare. But as we see Cell is able to absorb people with his tail. He's able to either poke them and start to suck the life out of them, and then pretty much to the point they're completely gone and all that's left behind is their clothes. Or he can open up the end of his tail and absorb someone whole, like he did to Android 17 and 18. And we also seen him do this in Dragon Ball GT in his perfect form, where that's only happened in Dragon Ball GT, where Cell tries to absorb Goku and starts to feel an intense amount of power, and makes Goku the first person to break out of Cell's absorption, where he climbs back out and exit. So that is something interesting too as well. But with this absorption, when Cell absorbs people, he collects their energy, and he's able to get their abilities or knowledge and things about them as they start to become a part of them. But the thing is, when Cell absorbs the regular humans, when he pokes them and sucks the life out of them, he's technically killing them at this point. It's not like the same of how he absorbs Android 17, 18, where they're able to regurgitate and still be alive. And it's possible because they're an android that Android 18 survived this when she was regurgitated and being part of them. It was probably a little bit different, but it could still be the same case if Cell absorbs a human or any of the other people like this in the same format, instead of poking them and pretty much sucking them, their life draining, But as we move on forward, we have Majin Buu. Majin Buu, his first time we see him, he's actually showcased in a form of him absorbing another person, which was him absorbing the Grand Supreme Kai, which that made him change into the Fat Buu, not his real form. So we didn't see his true form until later on, but we also seen him absorb a couple of people throughout. He ended up absorbing, Piccolo and Gotenks, and then later Gohan. And we know he also absorbed another one of the Kais, where we have the buff version of Buu. And later also we see him return to his original form, which is the Kid Buu form of Majin Buu, after there's removing the Fat Buu. We also seen the evil Buu absorb Fat Buu as well to become Super Buu. So there was a lot of absorptions that we see. But one thing we realize about Buu, when he absorbs people, he starts to adapt their personality. It's a little bit different from Cell, where Cell is still in control and getting their power. But in Buu's case, he might even get weakened. Now, it's not guaranteed to say he may be weakened by the absorption, because we only seen this with him absorbing Gotenks and Piccolo, and that when the fusion time limit ran out, he reverted back into the Piccolo version of his absorption, which Gohan was stronger than that version. So he probably didn't get a higher power boost. We don't know if he gotten weaker or not from him being Piccolo, or he could have gotten a little bit stronger from him absorbing Piccolo and from the comparison of his super boost strength. But Gohan was definitely stronger than that Piccolo absorption and super boost, so it probably didn't matter. So it's kind of hard to say, but it is implied that it is, because by him absorbing the Grand Supreme Kai, which it was kind of weird that he ended up getting weaker in a sense because of the influence of the Grand Supreme Kai suppressing the evil in Buu, and also cutting down his power from that of Kid Buu to that of Fat Buu. So it's kind of a hit or miss when Buu absorbs someone. Unless he absorbing someone who's really stronger than him, that's the only time he's going to guarantee to get, you know, a full power boost. But also depending on the person of how much they may have influenced his personality, because as you can see that the Grand Supreme Kai, when he was absorbed, it kind of influenced that of Kid Buu's mind and making him become Fat Buu and act like a child, but a little bit more different because he wasn't as evil as that of Kid Buu, who was more chaotic. So there's a lot of differences when we look at Buu. But one thing we can say about Buu absorption is very more versatile, seeing that he can take body parts because that bubblegum-like skin, he's able to capture people in a more sneakier way with his absorption. And with him being able to continue to regenerate, it is definitely hard to escape that of his absorption. And he can also still absorb you the same way if he turns you into chocolate and eats you as well. So there's a lot of different ways he can absorb you. So, but ultimately, my opinion, I feel like Cell's absorption has less drawbacks and will work better to secure more power rather than that of Buu, which could be a hit or miss unless you're fighting against someone who's way stronger than you. And at that rate, you have to be able to catch them by surprise and be able to get the drop to absorb them. Unlike that of Cell, where, you know, he still would need to kind of like, they'll know to avoid his tail. So that's another thing, that they both have a disadvantage, is kind of equal, knowing that if they're going to try to have their intent to absorb the person, they know to look out for that. But ultimately, we do know that it's a better reward when it comes to that of Cell, because Cell is able to absorb weaker people and get the energy without worried about any drawback effects, where Buu will have to worry about more of the strong people to collect energy and get stronger. So Cell could continue to go on to weaker places and get stronger, which is exactly what he did, going around absorbing people until he was strong enough that none of the Z-Fighters was really a match for him at the time, and which caused him to be able to absorb Android 17 to reach his semi-perfect form. So in that sense, Cell will definitely have a bigger chance. Now, if the case was different for Buu and he was able to get that same type of energy collection from weaker people by absorbing them, then Buu would have had a better chance of absorbing more people than Cell could with his abilities and getting stronger than everybody if that was the case. But unfortunately, it isn't. So right now, you just have to make the comparison of who has the better absorption abilities and which one would you rather choose to have if you had to pick out of the two. So get in the comments and tell us, what do you think?